I'm here with Tim Dahl, who played Blind Second Kashtira at North American Nationals and made day 2. Any shoutouts?
Yeah, so shoutouts to the Priority Face group chat, and especially Paul, Alex, Mike, and Ross. They helped me test a lot for the event, and I certainly wouldn't have been able to do as well without them, especially Paul and Alex, because they were up super late with me, and they helped me theory the deck a lot. So yeah, and then shoutouts to my family for supporting me and stuff like that. And I think the list was pretty solid overall. I think I just got really unlucky in day 2, because I thought it was a good meta call because most of the time people just aren't expecting Cash to go second, and you can just blow them out of the water. And I think every card in my deck was at least viable and had a lot of good theory behind it. And I want to talk about some of my matchups. So round 1 I played against Dragon Link. It was just an Eradicator fest, but I ended up winning because his Eradicator was less impactful than mine game 3. Then round 2 I played against Cash. We drew into time. We didn't even make it to game 3, so it's honestly tough to say if I would have won or not. Then Dragon Link round 3 I lost because I just simply bricked game 3, unfortunately. Then round 4 against the Synchron deck, which I don't know what to say about that deck. And then round 5 was Runic for Hire. I drilled him game 3. Then round 6 was against Dragon Link again. I drilled game 3 again. And then round 7 I played against Branded. I ashed Branded Fusion game 3. Plunder Runic, that matchup wasn't real. And then the Makonka matchup just wasn't real either. And then day 2 I bricked twice against the For Hire Runic deck again. And then Cash. So game 3, we went into time, and I was about to make a 6-mat Zeus, and he had no cards in hand, and I had follow-up play, which is super unfortunate, but what can you do?
How'd you do overall?
I lost. I made it to day 2, and then I ended up scrubbing out because I sucked. What can you do? All right, so let's get into it. Yeah, for sure. So starting off the standard 2 unicorn, 3 fender. 3 fender. Yeah, these cards are broken. I don't know what to say about them other than that. A lot of the times, I just drew suboptimally though, and it was just unicorn. But it's usually fine because unicorn is just so good. I played 3 Rise Heart. Honestly, I was super back and forth on this card because I was on 3 for a super long time, and then when it became popular to play 3, I started to hate the card because during my testing sessions I would just always draw multiples of this card, and it made me not want to play it. But I switched back to 3, and it came up quite a few times at the event, and I never drew multiples, so I'm really glad I played it. Then the 1 Scareclaw Cash, mandatory. It's effect to out cards like Dragoon and stuff like that never came up because most of the time you were either blowing your opponent out or you were just losing. So that was usually the standard. Then for the cash spells, 3 planet, 1 terraforming. I drew multiples of planet way too many times, so maybe terraforming can be cut, but I think terraforming might just be too good because your deck is so inconsistent sometimes. And then 3 Theosis, 3 Birth. I bricked on these a few times, but most of the time they were really broken extenders and extremely mandatory, I think, to play through both of these. I saw Cam Neal play 2 of this, which I don't know how people do that, but I guess he's a good enough duelist too. Then for the only hand trap I played for the event was Triple Shifter. I drew this card so many times. This card was absolutely insane for me. Unfortunately, though, game 1s against the 2 Kashtira opponents, I drew it, so it was really bad there. But funnily enough, game 1 of my very last round that I played ended up coming up because he had no cards in graveyard. and he couldn't get to a Dark Arm Dragon to win the game, which was pretty funny. But overall, this card was super good, and I would 1000% play it again. And for my staple spells, 3 Pot of Prosperity. This card should certainly be at 1, because like this card is super unfair. Like it just gives you so much advantage that you wouldn't have otherwise, and like it just does so many unfair things since you can see all your side deck cards. But basically my main deck is like a side deck, so like it's super dumb. And then I played 3 Book of Eclipse. So I was in between this and Dark Hole, but I decided to play Book of Eclipse instead. But honestly, I think this was certainly the correct call, because it just came up so many times where like I would be setting Book of Eclipse after like doing my own plays, and it ended up winning me quite a few games where Dark Hole wouldn't have. So I'm super happy I played this. Maybe there's consideration to play Book of Moon like aside Book of Eclipse as well, but I just didn't think it was impactful enough to play Book of Moon, which is another card I guess I'm pretty glad I didn't play. But then 3 Talents and 3 Thrust. Talents was pretty underwhelming for me, because like most of the time everybody was playing around Talents because the card is just meta defining, but the other card Thrust, nobody played around that card, so this was significantly more impactful than Talents all the time, because like you could search either this, Terraforming, or like Theosis or something like that, or just a board breaker, which is super good. Then 3 Dark Ruler No More. This was like certainly the best board breaker I had for the event, because like if you just like slam this down against a lot of decks, like they just lose the game. Like I activated this against one of my Dragon Link opponents, cleared his board, and then I took his Disbatter with Big Eye, and then he just had no way to out it, and it was super good. And then 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Duster. Lightning Storm, I like never activated this card. Duster, I activated it a few times. It beat a Makonka player, which was pretty cool. Shoutouts to that guy, he was pretty cool. But yeah, that's it for the main deck. And for the extra deck, I think my extra deck is pretty interesting. Tokens. 1 Donner. This did win me one of my games during the event. Other than that, the card was never summoned, but I think since it won me a game, it was worth playing. 2 Shang. A lot of people play 3. I think since I blind second, it's just not necessary to play 3. 1 Arise Heart. I never summoned this. Well, I summoned the card quite a few times, but not as often as like you would think in a Kashtira deck. Because like most of the time you were just trying to turbo into Zeus or OTK your opponent, and Arise Heart just never does that. But card's super good. I played 1 Big Eye. Before I was on 2, but the only problem with 2 is like it only comes up in the mirror match, which I'm really glad I only played 1 considering the lack of mirror matches I played. And I think only 1 is super good, and I think moving forward I would only play 1. But every time you do summon this, it's usually pretty good. It can be unfortunate, like sometimes if like your cash opponent rips it, but everything else in your extra deck is still really good, and your main deck is really good for cash, so I think it's fine. 1 Dark Arm. I barely summoned this either, but at one point it did come up to make like a format Zeus with this guy, because not a lot of people know it. You can just overlay 3 rank 7s instead of 2. And that just makes a format Zeus, which is why like I don't understand why people play the Infinitrack rank 7 when you can just play 2 of this guy if you really want to. But that's the only time this card actually came up during the event. But I do think this card is super good, and I think like under different circumstances this card would have been better. 1 Draco Sack. I only summoned this once when I misplayed. So like I missed lethal because I forgot I had already normal summoned, and I had to make Draco Sack to like not get OTK'd basically. And yeah, that's the only time it was summoned, especially since I didn't play against any Labyrinth for the event, which I'm really happy about, and I would always prefer to not play Labyrinth ever. So maybe like if I had the option to never play Labyrinth, I probably wouldn't play this card. But 1 Red Eyes Flare Metal. Shoutouts to Tyler for letting me borrow this for like 2 months. Yeah, I summoned this twice. The first time it was to Eradicator my opponent, and then the second time it was against the Makonko player, and he activated Axe of Fool, negating my Red Eyes Flare Metal, and then I got OTK'd. So it was not great, but I think it did its job. I played number 76 Harmonizing Gradle. So the idea behind this is it's really good against Dragon Link and Branded, which I played against a lot of Dragon Link and Branded, but like most of the time I was just like absolutely cooking my Dragon Link opponents, because like sometimes like you just win because you have cards like Shifter or Unicorn Fender, and like sometimes they also just can't have a Rise Heart either. So this card like never came up, but it's really good if you like want to attach like people's follow-up play and stuff like that. And it does like the same thing against Branded, because like if they mirror jade you and send Albion, you can make this and attach the Albion they sent, so that way like you're able to like stop them from getting like follow play for the next turn. Most of the time that's like pretty cope, but I think it was worth playing, especially since there's so much room in the extra deck now. And then one number 74 Master of Blades. This was for the runic decks, and like I guess it's like not terrible against Cash either. I never summoned it because most of the time it was either I was completely winning or completely losing, so it just never came up. And then two Zeus. A third one came up a few times, but other than that, only one. It was either like one or three came up. But overall, I think this card is super broken and should probably be banned. I mean, the card is super unfair sometimes. And then I played 3 Prosperity targets. I played Goliath, Entis, and Skull Knight. Goliath came up the most, but it was like usually irrelevant most of the time, but when it did come up, it was pretty good. And then Entis and Skull Knight also only came up once, and it was only in the mirror match where it ever came up, which is usually how like the Prosperity targets work regardless, because like against every other deck, it's like never impactful, or like it's just like never relevant to the cause of like trying to beat your opponent.
What made you choose the Entis over the Skull Wagon?
I just thought that like if I was attaching the Skull Wagon against like the branded deck, or not the branded decks, the Labyrinth decks, like I was just winning usually regardless, because like if a Rise Heart sticks around for an extra turn, like you're usually just winning the game regardless, because that card is super hard to out for them. And for my side deck, I played 2 Droll. This is one of those cards I wish I would have played 3 of, because every time I saw it I won. It was like certainly like one of the best cards in my side deck, and I wish I would have played more of it. But I mean, 2 was also like fine because I did see it a decent amount, but I certainly think if I would have saw a 3rd one, maybe I would have won some of my other games. 3 Ash. The idea behind this is to beat like the Branded and Labyrinth decks, which I played 1 Branded, 0 Labyrinth, so completely irrelevant, but I decided this in quite a bit just because like sometimes you want to interact with your opponent, or if like you choose to go first, which you usually do game 3, because like ideally game 1 you just blow your opponent out, then game 2 you might more than likely lose, and then game 3 you just beat them with your going first cards. I think this is like actually a very solid going first card most of the time, and it was pretty good for me. And I did Ash a Branded Fusion game 3, so that was pretty good. 3 Ghost Spell. This was the worst card in my side deck, mainly because like I said, 1 Branded, 0 Labyrinth, and against everything else it just wasn't that great. Like the Runic for Hire deck, I sided this in, it just like, it's basically another copy of Ash, and that's literally all I sided in against. Then for more backer hit, I played 2 Cosmic. I thought this was a good utility card, but honestly though, I kind of wish I would have just main decked it instead and sided something else. But I mean, maybe even just like not play this card at all. It didn't really come up too much, but I thought it would have been solid, but it was like okay. Then for my going first cards, I played 2 Eradicator, 2 Trap Trick. I only activated this once, but it's super good like when you do. It's just super unfair because like the combos you do with it are just super degenerate. And then this is pretty weird, but I started one Big Bang because for like the combo, if you open just Unicorn and then like Eradicator, this makes like Big Bang full combo, and you can end on follow-up play or earn a Rise Art, which is pretty good. But that only came up once, so I mean, it was fine overall, and this only came up once as well, like as well as these cards. But yeah, that's basically it.
Cool. Thanks for the deck profile. One of the best players out of Pittsburgh. One of the best placements at the event out of Pittsburgh players.
Hell
Peace.
yeah.